Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange. Today I want to do a fun video talking about the scariest books that I have ever read. Of course, fear is super subjective, but these are books that definitely creep me out. I do read a lot of horror and dark fiction, so it does take a lot to scare me. And of course, if you read these books, you might have totally different opinions because again, what scares me may not scare you and vice versa. But I thought this was a lot of fun to compile and it's the perfect time of year to talk about some creepy books. All that being said, let's get started. First, I want to mention one short story, and that is Deep Into the Skin by Matthew M. Bartlett. This is one that I read in the Tales of a Talking Board anthology collection, which is edited by Ross E. Lockhart. And this is about a group of people that are involved in a cult, and in order to perform a cult ritual, they have to tattoo a Ouija board onto someone's stomach. And you know me, I love some good body horror, and the concept behind this one really creeped me out. It is gruesome and so intense, and my hairs were just standing on end when I was reading this. So definitely recommend this one. It's so intense. The entire collection is really good, but if we're talking scariness, this particular story is the one I want to mention here. Next, I want to talk about Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, and this is a story of a woman who sent her own brother to prison for the murder of the rest of her family. And the reason I want to mention it is that there was a particular scene in this book that I found so disturbing that I honestly thought about putting this book down and never finishing it. And this is coming from someone who considers Gillian Flynn to be one of her favorite authors of all time. I love her stories, but I just got so uncomfortable that I didn't know if I could keep going. Of course, I did finish it, and I'm so glad I did because this is probably one of my all-time favorite books, but that one scene just gave me the creeps in the worst possible way. I can't say what that scene is because it's too far into the book and would be considered spoilers, but if you've already read this book and are curious, feel free to DM me on Instagram or Twitter and I can definitely let you know what that scene was. But because of that scene, this book definitely needs to make the list because I found it so creepy and it just bothers me to this day. It just gives me the shivers. Next, I want to talk about I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, and this of course is a true crime account of the Golden State Killer. Before reading this book, I honestly didn't understand why people said that true crime books were scary, but then I read this book and now I get it. This of course is the story of a man who went around California terrorizing women by breaking into their homes and raping and killing them. And I read this book alone in my house at night, and that was probably a mistake. I found this book to be very scary, especially as a woman. I think it plays into a lot of my own personal fears because it is an event that could actually happen, and that scares me a lot. So I had to stop reading this book and wait till my husband got home, but then I was reading it at night with him beside me in bed. And then I got to the part where I found out that the Golden State Killer started to attack people whose husbands were home. So even if their husband was at home at night with them, he was still breaking into their homes and terrorizing them and continuing to rape and kill women. So I was no longer safe even with him home. And I did push through and finish the book, but it was a little bit creepy for sure. It definitely bothered me. I had to read it during the day at times, and I definitely was creeped out. So for all those people who said true crime is scary, I now understand exactly what you're talking about because that one really creeped me out. Next, I want to talk about Uzumaki by Junji Ito, which is about a town that becomes obsessed with spirals. Honestly, that premise sounds pretty bizarre or even a little bit dumb when you first hear it, but trust me, this book is amazing, and for me at least, it was actually really scary. This is the first time that I found a piece of psychological horror to really work for me, and this book just got into my head. I started seeing spirals everywhere around my home, and it just really started to niggle at that side of my brain, and it just disturbed me just enough that I got to put on this list. It was creepy, and it's not going to be for everyone. You have to try it for yourself. Of course, Junji Ito also plays around with some really gruesome and weird imagery on the page that does fall into the side of body horror. So certainly that helped me to find that aspect of the scariness. But if you haven't checked out Junji Ito, I definitely recommend starting here because this one is so bizarre, but is so good, and yeah, just a little bit creepy. Next, I have to talk about Endless Nights by Richard Laymon, and this is a story that involves a younger girl that is going on a sleepaway at her friend's house when men break in and butcher her friend's family, and she has to run for her life and try to escape. This book is so brutal. It's definitely one of the most gruesome, horrific horror books that I have read. It will not be for everyone. It does definitely have triggers for things like rape, very intense, very disturbing, and I really liked it for those reasons. It's definitely scary for the sake of scariness, and I like the fact that part of the story is told from the perspective of one of the crazy men that is hunting her down. I definitely got the scariness vibes from this one, and if you are up for a very intense book with a lot of disturbing subject matter, I do recommend this one. There's a reason that a lot of people consider this to be Richard Laymon's best book, and it would be my personal recommendation where to start with his work, again, if you can handle it, because this one is intense and really, really disturbing. Finally, I have to talk about a new favorite scary book of mine, and that is Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez. This is about a group of teenagers that decide to go and vacation at a cabin in the woods. However, they are unaware that this cabin happens to be near woods where cannibals live. And of course, they are stealing people from these cabins and taking them away for, let's just say, cannibal purposes. And if you can't tell, the synopsis for that book is going to involve a lot of body horror, which again, I love so much. I've read cannibal books before, but this is the first one I actually found scary. I would personally recommend checking out the prologue for this book because I describe it as nightmare fuel. I read it at night and found it so scary, so disturbing. And beyond that, there are definitely some really scary moments in this book. Part of the story is told from the perspective of one of the cannibals, and I love when they include that in a book. And I've just found it so disturbing to get inside of his head. So cannot recommend that one enough. If you're up for a very intense, exciting experience, this is a great one to check out. So that's it for this video, but let me know if you enjoyed this because I could probably make this list again in another year with a whole another group of books because I'm always reading horror and other dark fiction. So I'm always adding more scary books to my own list. And I would love to know in the comments down below, what is the scariest book that you have ever read? And if you're a booktuber, I would love to turn this into a tag. So consider yourself tagged if you read horror or other dark, creepy fiction. Let me know what are the scariest books that you have read. I would love to watch those videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.